A lot of you have used his apps. He's really taken the iPhone and made it a musical instrument. He's a Stanford professor and also the founder of Smule. Please welcome out Wang.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I think I'm just going to go and jump right in with the first slide, and it is a picture of the Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics, or CARMA, CCRMA, at Stanford University. I'll start with this slide. One is because it's one of the places I work as a professor and researcher and teacher. It's also one of the places where a lot of the ideas we're going to talk about actually originate, as well as part of the greater computer music research community. And stepping back in time a little bit first, though, is this picture. And this is the IBM 360. It's one of the computers from the age I called Age of Mainframes. And computers have always been attractive for making music and synthesizing sound because of the precision, programmability, but they certainly have not always been fast. In fact, everything in this room can now be contained inside a phone that I hold in the palm of my hands and more. Moving forward in time a little bit, there's another element that I'm going to use in the things I'm going to present, and that's the chunk programming language. This is a project I worked on while I was a graduate student at Princeton, and this is a language used for making sound and synthesizing music. And these are some of the things that really go into some of the products I'm going to talk about. And finally, the laptop orchestra. This is the Stanford Laptop Orchestra's speaker arrays. Each of these is paired with a laptop and with a human to give each computer instrument its own sense of space and sonic intimacy. These speaker arrays are 6 channels. They're actually made out of IKEA salad bowls. Each one of these is actually an 11-inch blanded mat with 6 holes drilled into them, and then car speaker drivers embedded with amplifiers inside. And actually building instruments for laptops have actually made us think about how we actually create musical experiences out of commodity computing devices. And this is the Stanford Laptop Orchestra, Slork, actually performing on stage with musicians in China over the internet. And today we've actually created more than probably 150 different types of musical interfaces using the laptop and controllers attached to that. And this brings me to this, and this question, which perhaps is way too obvious. But for us, asking this is about taking the iPhone. What else can it be? Specifically, what can it be for music and for actually creativity through music? So to answer this and other burning questions, we actually founded a startup called Smule in the summer of 2008. And by the way, one of the very first people we talked to was Eric Ries, who you just heard in the last talk. And we continue to talk to Eric, and I just want to take the opportunity to actually thank Eric for the insight he's shared with us in the last year and a half. But to tell you about Smule is not as good as actually just showing you. So I'm going to switch to the Elmo here and give you a quick demo of our first sonic artifact that released into the iPhone App Store, and that is Sonic Lighter. And this will give you an idea of kind of how some of the things that we do. So the Sonic Lighter is your kind of standard lighter on the iPhone, responds to touch, responds to the accelerometer, so you can really, go to a concert and use this. Unlike other lighters, this is also a physical artifact. So to prove that, if I were to tilt this lighter too much, that crackling sound is the sound of the flame burning the side of my iPhone. And another equally physical gesture, I just blew out the flame on the phone. And that's actually by blowing into the microphone located at the bottom of the iPhone. Another sonic gesture is actually between 2 different iPhones. For example, if I turn on a second phone on this lighter and I throw this to flamethrower mode, and I hold it next to this other one, it ignites it. And that's actually also done through a near-field communication through sound. This is actually emitting a special signal that this one is picking up. So that's a sonic lighter in a nutshell, but also has a social component. Let's go see this in the slides. So there's actually a global visualization in the sonic lighter that shows you red dots. And these red dots represent the locations of other users of the sonic lighter who have recently ignited their iPhones with a sonic lighter. If nothing else, this is to provide some sense of anonymous connection to other people is to just say, well, these are other people around the world who, like me, have also spent $1 buying a virtual lighter on their iPhone. And in that way, we're connected. And these are actually the first 7 days of Sonic Ladder Ignition in September of 2008. And thinking about all these kind of parlor tricks perhaps you can do with the Sonic Ladder leads me to this ageless golden quote from Arthur C. Clarke, who said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And with this in mind, and also with this idea of actually building physical artifacts, is when we actually created the ocarina for the iPhone. And the ocarina, in short, let's go to the Elmo, I'll give you a quick demo, transforms the iPhone into a flute-like instrument. Using multi-touch, we actually have these 4 different tone holes that you can actually put your finger down on. And as you blow into the mic, it makes a sound. An accelerometer is actually mapped to vibratos. So for example, hear the difference? So you can play a scale. And you can also play some melodies. Also in the ocarina, I'll show you this on the iPad, is actually the same globe visualization. But instead of just seeing people, in addition to seeing people on this globe, you actually hear them as well. Here's some free jazz, I think, coming from France. Let's go look at some top melodies in the world. From Australia. Grace. And to date, more than 40 million listens have happened actually on the ocarina globe. And people are actually wanting to do this. And with this, it's a place where identity doesn't matter so much as participation. That you're kind of identified only through a handle and through the music that you play. So let's go back to slides, and I'll show you kind of how we designed this process, this particular application. And the ocarina actually didn't come first when we thought about making the ocarina. We didn't know we're actually going to make an ocarina. We knew we wanted to make a musical instrument. But what we started out with was actually the iPhone. It's some kind of inside-out design that actually took place, where we didn't really know what we wanted to build, just something musical. And instead of saying, we want to build X, and actually port that or put that on a phone, we looked at the phone and said, what is it good for? It has a multi-touch screen, has a microphone, has a CPU, graphics processing unit. It's always connected to the internet, and it's location aware. How can we use all of these things to provide a single coherent experience? And when we asked those questions, thinking about a small, compact, portable, and simple wind instrument suddenly became almost inevitable. And that's actually how the idea for our ocarina initially started. And indeed, these are just some of the simple design documents. We only just did 4 of them before we actually started writing code. And we released this in November 2008. In 4 days, it became the #1 selling app in the App Store in the US, as well as in 20 other countries around the world, and stayed there for the next 3 weeks. And during that time, and since then, we actually have more than 2 million downloads of Ocarina, and an organic user community has actually emerged. And these are just some of the users that have actually performed for the world via YouTube by, actually playing to their computer and playing their iPhone Ocarina. What's really encouraging about this, in addition to the sheer number of people who are doing this, is that as far as we can tell, most of our users are not professional musicians or people that normally think of themselves as musicians or instrumentalists. Simply people who like making music. And now I think we're actually getting some of them to do that. And a lot of people are actually maybe learning to play music for the first time on their iPhone. Here's an example. This is Lauren from Los Angeles area. really good. And you can also tell that her eyes are actually scanning as she's playing this. Presumably, it's actually a score, an ocarina tablature like this. So this is the tablature for Amazing Grace. And you can actually find more than 2,000 of these, all user-generated, on the Smule Ocarina forum. And here you can actually just learn to play without actually having to know how to read any music or having had any prior musical experience. It kind of becomes a game where you just have to match up kind of which finger holes you're actually pressing down and some basic timing. So if you already know the melody, it becomes sort of like a little game to see if I can play this melody on my iPhone ocarina. Since unintended consequences seem to be a running theme here in these last few talks, here's one for us.
This is why I love the iPhone.
So yes, she's playing the iPhone ocarina with her nose. She's apparently a lifetime kind of nose flautist. She's actually played various flutes with her nose, and this is just her latest nose flute. She's one of the winners in our This Contest Blows video ocarina contest on YouTube. So we sent her $1,000, a Smule t-shirt, and also a box of Kleenex. Another anecdote, this is an ignition map for the sonic lighter. The red circle you see at the top left was actually this place where the blog's wondering if that's northernmost recorded iPhone user. We looked in our database, and indeed it's actually not one, but 6 different iPhones out there, each with sonic lighter, and they've been continuing lighting up for 6 weeks. So we wondered, is this like a distress signal? Quickly we realized that if you had an iPhone, you have GPS, you also have the internet. There are better ways to call for help than to ignite your sonic lighter and hope for the best. Zooming into the Pasadena area in late 2008, we saw that one user actually has left us a message with their sonic lighter. And this is covering several city blocks. This is one iPhone, and the easy ways to do that is just turn on the iPhone, walk a few steps, blow out the sonic lighter, and repeat. And the user actually did this and sent this to us. We followed ocarina with leaf trombone world stage. And this is kind of a musical game to start with. It tells you kind of where to play, when to play, and all the instructions is actually on screen. You just have to actually play along. There's an interesting social aspect to this, actually two. One is that you can actually author content from the web. And as soon as you publish this, it becomes available in the application for everyone to use. The other is the world stage concept. And this is kind of taking a page out of the human computation textbook, and it's leaf trombone actually recruiting users that are currently using the app to serve as judges on the world stage, where they'll actually judge the performances of other leaf trombonists. And so they can actually give comments, as well as emoticons, and also give a 1 to 10 rating. So far, more than 500,000 judging sessions have occurred in the leaf trombone. Meanwhile, at Stanford, we're moving forward on mobile music research. So this is the Stanford Mobile Phone Orchestra, abbreviated to MoPho, it's spelled with a PH. We wear gloves that have speakers on top of them with batteries. And we perform, but also we're looking into performances and music making that is geographically diverse, asynchronous, and more crowdsourced. And another thing we've been actually working with, both at Stanford and Smule, is actually the iPad. And we launched our first iPad application from Smule in April, and that is the Magic Piano. If I can switch to Elmo, then I'll give you a quick demo of this. So, this is to take advantage of the large multi-touch display on the iPad. And I can get all 10 fingers there. But then there's a number of other more whimsical keyboards you can play with, you can customize. So this is a more traditional linear keyboard. For some reason, the top oscillate like the ocean. I'm not sure why, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. You can transpose it. You can also get as few or as many keys as you like. Put this into a circle. And then there's the songbook. In the songbook here, let's see, play a little Turkish march. All you have to do is follow the light, but the timing is completely up to you. And then finally, there's another feature, and that's the duet. In this feature, it actually allows you to connect to other lead trombonists, other magic pianists around the world. And it kind of depends on who's on the other side. And this is kind of a form of a, what do you call kind of a piano roulette, because you only have a minute with the other person before this switches you to a different user. And so far there have been no endless renditions of Heart and Soul actually played on this. So let's go back to the slides. So far the Magic Piano in the last month of release has been played by world-renowned pianists like Wang. This is him doing an encore with the San Francisco Symphony, playing Magic Piano on an iPad, to cats. It would seem that the internet is actually made of cats. And this video has been viewed 5 million times in about 2 weeks. We designed it for people. We didn't realize it was actually going to be also so feline friendly, but we're not complaining. And finally, Glee. This is an application we've been creating in conjunction, in partnership with Fox Digital Entertainment, with the Fox TV show Glee. And it really is about two things. It's about singing, and it's about singing together with the world. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of the singing part. If Magic Piano is kind of the spiritual successor to Ocarina, then in some sense, Glee is a spiritual successor to I Am T-Pain, which is another application we did. And I don't sing, so I'm gonna embarrass myself here. And this is buy you a drink. Yeah. Snap your fingers, do your step. You can do it all by yourself. Baby girl, what's your name? Let me talk to you. Why you drink? I'm too fine. You know me. All the reason that we go moving. No, because those are three. What's the chance of you rolling with me? Back to the crib, show you how I live. Let's get drunk, forget what we did. Buy you a drink. Oh, whoa, I'll stop torturing you now. Thank you. And if we can switch to Elmo, I'll show you one more thing on Glee. And this is the group singing. So in Glee, not only can you sing and have your voice actually pitch corrected, and actually harmonized using our special technology at SMU, you can also then add your voice to other people who have sung this song. And so if I go to the world here and listen, actually see radio towers kind of show up around the world. And you can kind of listen to them. And you scroll around the world and see what other people are singing around the world. And as you like, you can actually join them and add your voice to the performance. So far we have songs that have more than 20 people actually singing on them. So for example, that's actually Glee, and this is actually part of a bigger social experiment we're running to see, well, can we get people who don't necessarily know each other, or all the way across the world, to actually sing together? And this is kind of maybe the most recent version of kind of We Are the World, but it's actually crowdsourced. And on that note, I think I'll go back to slides and wrap up. So after having designed musical experiences for the laptop, the iPhone, and more recently the iPad, what can we reflect? One is actually, they're very similar. Phones have gotten so powerful they really rival the computing power of desktops and laptops just a few years ago. But also they just have less of everything, less pixels, less memory, less computing power. But in a very real sense, they're actually more powerful in that they're more intimate, more personal. And we feel much more related to to our phone, for example, than to our laptops, because in some sense they seem to be natural extensions of ourselves. And in the end, what we really are realizing is that the phone, the laptop, things like the iPad, well, they all each deserve their own design space, because they're just different. If computing for laptops and desktops is about going to the computer and actually immersing yourself in that world, well then so-called mobile computing may be just taking computing back out into our everyday lives, into our physical world. And so in answer to this question I posed in the beginning, there are two things my undergraduate computer science teacher said were almost always good answers. One is that it depends. This thing can be made into any number of things. And two is, I don't know. I don't know what kind of things we can actually is waiting to be discovered for creativity, for music, for all kinds of things that we don't yet know we want to do. And so I'll just end with this quote. The old computing is about what computers can do, whereas the new computing is really about what people can do. And with that, thank you very much.
I'd like to thank T-Pain for being with us here today. We don't want to keep you anymore. Thank you very much for coming out today.
And as you guys are leaving, we've got one more very short video to send you off. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. We start here at 9 o'clock with remote-controlled helicopters.
Have a good evening.
Thus, your name here, Dory. A story of refusal to admit defeat. A story of gallant men and women who kept faith and who molded the universal dream of a better life into reality through your product here. A living symbol of our national heritage. A story in the great tradition of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and the other heroic figures who, like your company president here, dedicated their lives to humanity, and whose contributions to the betterment of mankind will never be forgotten.